I am Yamato Cannon, and this is Muffin, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Reflections, and my guest for this one is going to be Trymbi, obviously the support player previously of Rogue/Koi, and more recently FNATIC, currently teamless, but we'll get to that at the end of the interview. So Trymbi, the first place I actually want to start is, I did go and do a little bit of digging around, because obviously like European League of Legends was around a long time before I ever heard of Trymbi, so I thought there must be some stuff out there about him. And this weird piece of trivia I found claims that like when you were in high school, you were a like challenger in the US, but on like a 20 FPS PC, right? Listen, that does sound sick. That sounds like an anime, but it does make it. Does that imply you're like some prodigy or something? Were you just really good at League early on?
I think early on, not really, right? But it's because I basically couldn't play League until like season 5, even though I discovered League in season 1. Just because I didn't have a proper PC and there was a lot like going on as well at the time, so I basically was like just watching everyone. Like, you know, I would at some point when I was in like my secondary school, when I had like a couple of friends that were playing League, I would like I would like drive daily. We would like play football, and right after we would like go play. They would go play League. I would go to their houses and just watch them play because I couldn't play myself.
Oh, right.
And it was. At some point, it was a bit crazy because I was really into League, right? Like we would like constantly talk about League, and when they were playing, I was just like watching, maybe give like, you know, when I saw something, I would like, yeah, tell them like my point of view, and I think it kind of shaped me in a good way because first I had the hunger for like years, you know, after I got like my first laptop, right, the one that you talked about, I was spamming games even though I had to share that laptop with my brother, right? The half of the time that I had. I was using it the best I could, and I was just playing, even though, right, it was 20 FPS for a long time. Yeah, I got like challenger in like the Nordic server, and then right after, when I tried to go to West, because that's when I tried to go a little bit more competitively, right, with like some of the trials that are going on in Polish scene. I tried to get on the West, the challenger. At first, it was a bit hard. I think I was like stuck masters, but then at some point I got it. So it was a crazy road, not gonna lie, because a lot of times it just felt so hopeless, right? When you, for example, I think I did one tryouts that, right, I got kind of smacked on, right? And then I was like, wait, why am I even doing this, right? Like, I don't even, like I have to play on this, and these guys probably have to have so many better options, right?
Sure.
But I'm like, I don't know. I just wanted to compete, you know, because I really like the game. And yeah, at some point, it paid off.
Right, one thing I noticed is quite unusual about your career in like an initial sense. People will be surprised when I tell them this, is that you used to play AD carry. But that's actually, if people know like esports, not that surprising actually. If you look, a lot of the best support players used to be in AD carry. If people don't know, people back in the day like Afro Moo, I think even Mad Life played mid lane or something. Like there's all load of super famous ones where usually it's actually ADC to support swap. So can you tell me the reason why did you swap? And the other thing I do notice about these players, I think that people even imply Carrier played mid lane or something, is you do notice the players that swapped from a different, more like traditional carry role and then the support tend to be the ones who have cracked out mechanics. So do you think this helps you mechanically that you used to play a different role?
Yeah, for sure it helped me like realize what my AD carry needs. Back in the day, I was just a one trick. I would like one trick different champs, and I was changing roles pretty much, or like lanes. First, I was like, I don't know, I was like playing mid lane a bit. Then I think I was spamming Riven until some point because I just liked the champion because it was quite mechanical, but I really liked the way it was, you know. The champ was like so fun back in the day. And then Thresh came out, and I'm like, holy, that's my champion, you know. I loved it because it had everything. And I was at Thresh one trick, but then I had an account on EU's West server because before going there, I still had an account. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to play AD carry because outside of Thresh, I didn't like any support champs. So I was just playing AD carry like pretty much, you know, until I got like, I think, challenger in Nordic, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should like stick to one role, right? And then I was like, AD carry was triggering me too much. When I was seeing what my supports were doing back in the day, I'm like, okay, I have to just, you know, show myself how to play the role. Kind of, you know, like I was also pretty bad at the time, but I just felt like also, I mean, one more thing is this laptop, right? Like when I was playing AD carry with like 20 FPS laptop, I just felt bad for my teammates, you know?
Right.
I would like farm up, and then at some point, like my game would crash for no reason, a bit of team fight. I'm like, okay, at least I'm gonna play support, I'm gonna play Thresh, maybe I'm gonna get the hook before my game crashes,
Right,
so maybe we win a fight before, right?
Okay.
Like that was kind of the way I did things, and it kind of worked for the most part, right? At some point, I even like got like a bit optimization on my laptop that got me a little bit better FPS and like a bit smoother in early game at least. So at least in early game, you know, that's why I feel like nowadays I focus so much there, because that was the area I could do the most. Because, you know, later FPS would like go down and it would be so much harder to play for me.
Right, one question I have for you about the support role. Sound a bit weird how I set it up. So basically, everyone knows historically one of the reasons why people often actually made fun of the support role. I remember when I first encountered games like Dota and League of Legends, and I was actually like, wait a minute, there's sort of a role where it's like, look, it's not that you don't do anything, but you could actually essentially sort of do nothing, and if your team was really good, you win anyway. Because like from Counter-Strike, that's alien, the idea that someone could sort of do almost nothing. Even the in-game leader has to do something, you know what I mean? So obviously that is just like a very broad strokes, like almost like what a casual says, like, support's easy or whatever. But at the same time, like the jokes right themselves, like your story there basically was that like, obviously I can't be like, you know, really good on ADC, but if I play support though, can do that on a 20 FPS. That makes it sound like it is. But obviously, right, we know this isn't the case, because I often describe it this way. At the competitive level, to me, it's like, okay, maybe aside from certain champions, it's not like you're making crazy mechanical outplays always from support, but support's obviously a knowledge role, isn't it? It's about things that you bring to the team and the social. So can you give me a sense? Like, I notice a lot of support players even do joke themselves, like, is it like if I asked Mickey X, he'd joke and tell you it's way easier than like mid lane or something, you know. But if I watch him, he's obviously fucking insane at what he can do in the game. So give me a sense, what do pro support players do you think, that like people who just play it to be carried in solo queue don't see? What are we not seeing about the support role?
I feel like one thing that is underestimated about support role is like how much you can do for your team, especially nowadays after like changes throughout the years. Like jungler used to impact much more the lanes. Nowadays it's not as easy as it was. So I feel like support a lot of times can do his job, right? At least in early game. And I think, you know, players like Mickey, Heli, even JeongHoon, right? At some point, like they were, you know, they started being appreciated, right? But people wouldn't see like how knowledgeable they were, you know, with like their moves on the map and the way they would like set up things. That's something that it's hard. I would say it's hard overall for viewer to see unless the support does a mechanical outplay at the same time, you know. Then people will go like mad, you know. They'll be like, holy, that guy is insane, right? But if they don't do it, people most likely will focus on the person that utilizes it, right? And at the end, I don't know, gets a kill or like advantage, right? And you can clearly see it. And yeah, you know, it's like underestimated role, but I think within the scene, like people do appreciate supports. At the end of the day, I think good supports, like, you know, get the when you talk with people, you can see, right, which supports like people appreciate more or less. You know, you can see which guys are actually thinking, you know, outside of the box or like thinking so much and have the knowledge to do stuff. And as a support, it's nice, right, when you are thinking a lot about the game and overall just do stuff. It's so much rewarding, I would say, if you are aware of what's happening in the game.
Since you mentioned Hilla-Sang and Mickey X, obviously later on I will ask about them since they're some of your main rivals and the most famous EU supports. But I was actually surprised that the third name you threw in there was JeongHoon, the player from Astralis, if people don't know, because I actually think this must be, I'll ask you this as a follow-up, because I think it's the perfect way to ask for more about the same topic you just talked about, because the funny thing is, the only way people will know him, like your answer, is when he played the Pyke game and everyone can see when he press hard, jump on everyone. Like, that is probably the easiest way as a support to look flashy, right? But is there something beyond that about this player that was interesting, or does he have like some nuance that people miss?
I don't think he was just playing his game, and that's something that's really important for a support or like overall for a player, right? You cannot just play the game that enemy is like dictating, right? You have to like somehow either match it or try to like make it harder for enemy team, right? And that's what he did with like first his champion pool, as you said, right? The Pyke that sometimes could be very obnoxious. I think that game was even against us when we like.
All right.
I think it was a game where like we drafted a bit like more scaling, right? And he could like do whatever he wanted. And even though, you know, I can call that he's going top, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, of course.
Whatever he wants, right? And
True.
that's like, you know, that was a good thing. Like that's what, you know, I would say about like a good support player, right? When he like thinks of a certain play in a game, and even though you can think about it from the enemy side, it's like it's a play that is just good, you know, and he sees it, and not many people do, like nowadays, I would say, at least, because it's just not easy, you know. People a lot of times just focus on the laning phase and such. And yeah, as a support, it's nice to be flexible. And that guy just had really nice champion pool to play his games, where he could just kind of terrorize the map with the players, especially the ones that he had in the Stralis, right? Like
Yes.
leaders and others, like they love to just play being around, and that was his job pretty much.
Normally, I'm a bit of an elitist, but I do actually have some questions about when you're in the RLs. So first things first is, sadly, I only know about this because it has a tragic component to it. But when you played in Pride, which people might know was a Polish team, you played with a top laner called Konektiv, who sadly actually has passed away. He's deceased now. So I wanted to ask, I know actually when he died, it wasn't just that people were like, he's no longer here. I saw there's actually quite a lot of like outpouring of people. Like people all said he was a great guy or not. So can you tell me about this team? Because it was one of your first like actual like proper pro-Polish teams, right?
Yeah, it was like it pretty much started for me esports pretty much for me. And it was even a bit before, because coming soon, like the way I got like an option to play there is that I play a completely random tournament on a Polish scene, because I was always the guy who would like get qualified with like a team that was like mix of everyone that I would like met throughout my time in solo queue. We would get to the tournament and go 8th place. And there was one tournament that
is that like last place in this case, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was like
right.
I was like doing it for like 2 years, right? When I would just like and one day somebody asked me to like join to a team that was like also last, but you know, they needed like a sub for like 2 games, and I played those 2 games versus like one of the best players in Poland, right? And after that, the enemy support, just tweeted at me that, you know, it was like one of first times that somebody actually played against him, like, you know, like matched him and play well,
right.
even though I was like playing on this laptop, you know, I was like so happy. And then right after that, you know, I also got like a bit recognized, and people started like tryouting me and picking me up, right? That's how I even got to that team, because they just needed the support, and they're like, oh, this guy was like, you know, they said good things about him. And that's kind of how it started, and it kind of was a dream team, you know. Like we're not the best for the Polish scene, but it was just mix of people that nobody really wanted. And as you said, Konektiv, for instance, he was when it comes to his charisma, it was just crazy. He just made this team like flourish together, you know. It was so fun to be around there. I was still at the high school at the time. So, you know, when I had a winter break on stuff, they would be like, hey, man, you have to come to the gaming house. We should just make a bootcamp. And sometimes, yeah, even after the winter break, I would just miss for a week in my school just because I wanted to go for a bootcamp to Warsaw, right? Just to play. And also, at the time, I got my first PC, because that was my... instead of having like money from the contract, I just told them, I need a PC, otherwise I can't practice properly. Right. And yeah, I got one because of it, and I was really happy about that. And that kind of started everything. And the atmosphere itself during the bootcamps was amazing. It was just 5 people. We didn't even have a coach. So 2 of my teammates, both Konektiv and my Defless, my AD carry at the time, they kind of took the coaching role, and I was learning so much, and I had so much daily playing scrims. Sometimes I even check some of the clips that I have from that time, and I'm like, yeah, that was what got me into esports, and that's made me like try to at least get to some kind of that point, you know, in a team when people, it's just like a family, you know. That's kind of how I view it nowadays. That, you know, like orcs say, right, that you feel like a family, but it's not really like, you know, it's not always a thing. But I'm trying, like, I would love, you know, in any team that I am, that people, you know, just like. Even though they might like not like each other to some extent, it's like a family, right? At the end of the day. So I just want this kind of atmosphere when people just like enjoy being around, you know. And that's like what first team that made me realize I love it, you know. Like I kind of need it as well in a team. It's like so nice to have such atmosphere.
That's actually an unusual response. I wouldn't have expected that, Trymbi, because the thing is, obviously, you are a Polish player, and I've known a lot of the Counter-Strike players that were Polish, and I can tell you, they're mad spicy, mate. Like, they would tell you the opposite. They would tell you, like, look, as long as my team's good, like, we can fight. It doesn't matter. Like, we'll argue, but, you know, as long as we win the match, who cares? Like, you want a different setup. You don't like people being antagonistic, because if people don't know, it's a famous trend about European League of Legends. That's kind of how, like, review session works, right? It's everyone just arguing, like, right, what the hell were you doing? I mean, mate, you were in a team with Odoamne, he's flaming everyone. Like, you want a team that's more chill? What the hell?
No, but unironically, in the Pride team, we're arguing a lot. Like,
right.
Like, anyways, that's why, you know, I like the mix of both, you know, where you're like kind of able to argue with each other, but at the end of the day, you try to come to conclusions, and you just try to get better with every day, and you come the next day and you're like, yeah, let's just work again. And that's like, I think it's like perfect, you know. That's why I generally like to argue. And as you said, as a Pole, sometimes, like, you know, like I'm as well emotional, like I can get angry, you know. And there are situations like this in the Polish teams when, you know, like things would go south, but, you know, at the end of the day, we would somehow try to get to conclusions together.
By the way, if you made it essentially, if people are following this story, I thought it was just on like solo queue you play on the laptop. You actually essentially made it to the pro level playing on a fucking laptop. Like, does that mean, do you think of yourself as talented at games? Do you think you just have like a talent to play games?
I mean, throughout my time, my career, I played some other games to sometimes like figure what can I get from those games? And I was not that good. I think with League, I'm just like better, you know. On other games, I think it takes quite a bit of practice for me to get better. I'm not like, you know, there are players like Selfmade who I heard, you know, in 1 month can got like really high elo in like Overwatch and
fair enough. Okay,
yeah, like I'm not like that. I can't get, you know, I'm not gonna get that high in like a completely new game. But I do like when it comes to playing, I do like trying to figured out what's good for certain games. Like, for instance, I played Overwatch. I really like the awareness of the team files, and I tried to like pick it up, you know, to the league. Try to like focus a bit more on that. And some other games, I even played Dota like somewhat recently, you know, to like figure it out, you know, how they play, and I realized how much they look at the macro, you know, and like how different the game is. A bit different, right? But it does help to like figure out what you can do better in your game.
Right. One of the interesting things is, even though obviously the Polish scene has been one of the better ERLs for many years, after this you went and played in the Spanish league, you played in the LVP, you played with actually like G2 Heretics team. So can you give me some thoughts on this? Because from the players I've known, I mean, people might know before we got this LEC and proper ERL system, actually the Spanish league was already the ones that was a bit popping. It was kind of where like people who didn't get, maybe they had a split out of LEC went there. And I've been told actually it was fairly professional. Like the finals are all big with fucking huge crowds and stuff. Can you give me some thoughts? What was it like to play an LVP?
Oh, like first, yeah, it was my first actual like real tryouts where I could like show off, right? And the coach at the time, Sharks, he really liked me, so he just kind of picked me up, and he thought that I would be a good fit to the team. And when it comes to players, it was like really nice characteristic mix. And it was also my first time it was first time I even had a real coach pretty much in a team,
right?
That I could like talk to in person, right? Because it was also the time that I traveled to Spain, right? It was first time I was like out from my house, right? And I had to like actually.
Oh, you had to live there as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, to live there and just like it started to be my work, right? Instead of just something that I did after school. So that was also like a really big thing for me in my life. And the Sharks coach that I had. He gained my respect from day one. You know, it was really nice to work with him and overall with the team, cause he made me realize, you know, how important it is and how now like it kind of becomes my job and I just have to work my ass off in order to get anywhere, right? And he made me realize that from day one, and we are just like, I think I spammed so many games first 2 weeks. It was not good. I was just a grinder at the time. I would spam so much, and then from there I was slowly trying to figure out what's best for my life in order to like optimize everything. And that's where I started to also think, you know, to just not. I didn't have the school that could be like a bit of a way out, so I had to figure out what was like the other things I could do. And at the time, I think we did like quite a bit of like football and stuff as a team. Right. We would like go out. It was really nice atmosphere. I think it was really professional, right?
Was it supposed to be like team bonding exercise type thing? Right, I see. Right.
And we did these activities just, you know, on our own too, you know, like we just did things as players just to like get to know each other. And yeah, through all of this experience, like I learned, you know, how to be more useful, you know, and try to be not maybe a leader, but give some kind of activities, ideas that I could do as a team throughout the years later. And it did help. It was really nice. we didn't really get anywhere, right? Because we lost the EU Master Series like 2-3. But at the end of the day, I think that team was really good. We also had there was some issues like in every team, and we were trying to get through them. And honestly, I would say it was like really confidently like I liked every single one of the players. It was really nice, and I had like relationships with like player like Zico. Like to this day, we're still like, you know, we would always hang out, and when we saw each other like a year ago, it was like the funniest stuff ever. So in my era, like times throughout every single team, so it was good. I really liked it.
Wasn't it unusual to live in Spain, though, if you're coming from Poland, mate? Like, first of all, a bit warmer, and then also they do, if people don't know, it's not a joke, it's similar in Italy. They do that siesta thing where, like, the shops close at, like, a certain time in the afternoon, and if you're, like, an idiot like me, come from another country, you miss that, you start eating for 3 hours or whatever. It's weird, isn't it? Like, it takes some adjusting to, I imagine, right?
Oh, no, for sure. But the good thing was that, I don't know if you know, but I lived in Spain. I was born in Spain.
I wasn't aware of this. Okay, right.
Yeah, I lived in Spain for like 4 years, right? I was a kid, but I would always ask my mom, who lived there a bit longer, right, with my dad, and she would always tell me like what I needed to do. So for Spain, I was pretty good for Spain. Like it somehow did help.
Did that make it more comforting for your parents that this is where you were going then? Because I know when people go away from home, they're usually a bit more nervous, you know. Did they feel like they understood where you're going?
Oh, I think my mom was like scared all the way for sure.
Oh, right.
I think she just trusted me. I think I earned her trust throughout the years of me, you know, working my way up to, you know, to try to become like an esports athlete.
Because, you know, when people tell stories when someone's made it in esports, they always try to do this angle that, like, the parents are stupid if the parents are like, what's going on? Like, dude, if you actually listen to the way the stories are told, like, if someone's early in their career and you go to your parents like, hey, you know that game I play on the internet? Yeah, I'm just going to go to, like, another country, to, like, a team house, or it'll all be okay. Like, dude, that does sound mental. Like, I always tell people, I totally understand if the parents would be worried about that. Like, that sounds like some, like, crazy story. Like, that could end so badly, that story, right?
No, it's completely true. I mean, for me, the thing was that I was already 18, right? When I ended my high school, it was not as dramatic as some players that had to just drop school, right? And they would go instantly. Sure. So I think Fred even told me about like his story, and when I heard about it, I'm like, yeah, that's crazy compared to me, right? Like my mom saw me. Like, just, you know, I was doing quite fine in school. Maybe I was like, had 1 year when she was like kind of worried because I was playing more and I was not doing that well in school. But I came back from that, you know, and I think then she realized that I really like what I'm doing, and she just let me do my thing.
And then after that, obviously, you went back to Poland and played in that AGO team, which, if people don't know, is basically the reason, as far as I know, that Trymbi is in the LEC. Because if you look at this lineup, like, mate, I think every player in this team's played in the LEC at this point in time. This is like a super team of players from that region. Like, you got Shigenda top lane, Zanzara jungle, Chekalad was in mid lane, and then you had Woolite as your partner in the bot lane. So, like, every player here's experienced. And if you look, like, dude, this was a fucking sick team in the RLs. Like, you guys won the EU Masters with this squad. So, can you give me some thoughts on this team? It seems like actually it's a pretty banger lineup.
Yeah, I do believe it's one of the best lineups, I think, in ERLs that ever played. I mean, of course, now there are like some good ones too, right? But I think we did really good job, and even looking back at it, I think we had really good fundamentals at the time. Maybe not like really insane compared to like LEC level, but when we did play scrims against LEC teams, we like some of those teams were actually like smashing, you know, both mechanically, and when it came to macro, we were doing really even. Right. So it was nice time. Like it was not easy at first because I think we lost the Ultraliga final, which was really sad, right? We were like set as a favorite, but because of this, I think without that, I don't think we would have won EU Masters, because this kind of gave us like it gave us like understanding that we have to like work our asses off in order to like win the whole thing, and we knew we can, but we just had to follow our game and just do what's best for us, and that's what kind of happened. The meta that happened at the time, I think it was really good for us when it came to macro, because I think we figured out as like first ERO teams how to play out, and also some of the cheesy strategies that were happening at the time, we also got to experience it in scrims, so it helped us tremendously throughout the whole tournament. And yeah, we won, even though it was the COVID times, right? So we didn't have all of the players in the office, right, that we had. I think both Shigenda, Zanzara, and the coach,
Right.
they were not around us, so it was only us three Polish people just sitting, in office every day. And yeah, it was getting crazy at some point, right? Because yeah, we would like when there was like conflicts, like I don't know. I think the most conflicts I had was like with Chocolate, for instance, because we were like both like just going at each other at some point, and like my coach would like say something, and we both would like just take off our headsets and we would like talk, outside, and he didn't even know what's happening, right? Those times were they were not ideal, but I think we're doing a good job like together, and I think that squad, because of their characteristics, just worked perfectly with the way, I don't know, like even the fact that we have Zanzar, I think was like so huge, because he helped us tremendously when it came to just working out with every single team, each role and the lane, because I would say that lanes needed quite a lot at the time, and I think Zanza was like such a good fit for us. And then I could also like do my thing, because I think my top side would like give me a lot of freedom in draft, for instance. And I think that's what also started for me, where I was like looking for edges all the time, and I think that's what also happened in New Masters, where like sometimes I had like spots where I could just show what I can do, and it was really nice, because at the time I was playing so much solo queue, I was just trying out everything pretty much.
As I mentioned, your AD carry at the time was Woolite, and I have to ask about him, because the problem is, this is a player who, as far as I can tell, his career's almost been ruined by Reddit narratives. Like, because he used to play a million years ago now in the EU LCS, before it was even LEC, and he obviously, like, people memed on him when he was in Roccat, right, and said, oh, he just ints all the time and dies, right? What people don't know is, after that, the whole time he's been playing in the RLs, and I've heard from all the people in the RLs, he's really good, and they actually tell me, for real, if you could sort of, like, take the nameplates off, this guy would just have been back in LEC. What do you think about this? Is he maligned?
I mean, to me, it is mind-blowing that he didn't get any offer after that split. Like, really, he was doing so well. I just didn't understand why he didn't get pretty much any offer, right? I don't think he got even tryouts that year. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that's what I remember. And
right.
Even afterwards, right, he didn't win EU Masters, but he was doing the best he could with the teams he had. And I think also he's giving so much, like, the experience he has, I would say it gave me a lot, right? When I got to lane with him, that's where, I started thinking a bit more about what I'm doing and overall how I manage the waves and everything. And yeah, to me, it's just weird, because I do believe he deserves a chance, just like a chance, I think at some point he had one, but yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know, for whatever reason, they're looking at the age and they're like, I don't think I think, I'm sad for him, because I know he's been working so much past years, and I think it's just unfair, to be fair. Like, the fact that, he had, I don't know, one situation maybe in LEC, like that just, it just made his career so hard, right, from that point onward. And he's been trying to this day, right? And I think he's doing really good, right? Like, looking at how he has like some of the options and like offers, right? I think even like past year, he didn't have even much offers, even though he was doing well anyway, right? Throughout the year. So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to blame anyone, because I just don't know. But yeah, I wish I could see him, in LEC, because I do believe he would do a good job there.
Right, when you came into the LEC and you joined Rogue, what people might not remember is, like, I don't think that many people were happy with this move, Trymbi. I know I wasn't. Like, spoiler, if you go watch my shows, I flamed it for like the first year, because the problem is you were replacing my boy VandeR. And if people don't know, he also is a Polish support player. But at the time, look, this wasn't like when he was at his peak. Like, his mechanics probably had degraded by now. But the whole thing at the time was, but that's not what support role is. So we all thought, right, he must be like a shot calling component of the team. Obviously, he has past history with the ball. And so when you first came in, people just thought it's just a guy with mechanics. That's all it is. Like, in fact, I even remember people just said you just used to int that first year. So first things first is, like, what was it like to replace VandeR? Like, did you know yourself there'd be like pressure and expectations?
I mean, I did look up to him, right? And I remember the games when he played in like the Polish Roccat, and like, you just remember those days, right? And yeah, I felt weird. Like, I did feel weird, and there was a lot of pressure going on. But on the other hand, I just had to do well, right? It's a lot, right? Already, right? To like try to fill in the shoes, but well, I have to do that, right, when I get a chance like that. And I knew like the teammates that I had that were like insane. I did believe that us like mechanically were really good, and individuals would just like somewhat fit together. And I just tried to, I just tried to emphasize that and facilitate on that kind of, and just see where my role would be.
Like I say, at the time, I actually think people, look, if I actually went back, you probably didn't do a million hits. But what happens is when you're a newer player, if you hit, it's just really memorable. And then when people mention it, it becomes like a thing, doesn't it? So the question I have is this, though, which is obviously Rogue was great that year. Like we can talk about some of the results in a second. Like the team was obviously like in the finals and going to Worlds. But the sad thing is, dude, it's like the scene itself. The way I can show you that the scene didn't give you respect this year is I looked up the all LEC teams. And the joke is like everyone else on the team's getting on these squads and you're the only one they leave off. You don't get any of the first, second, or even third team. So even though the team's doing really well, like what was the first year like for you individually? Do you think did you have any time struggles adapting? Did you actually think you did better than people thought? What did you think of this first year in Rogue?
I mean, I generally believe I did better than everyone thought. It's just I had like those moments when, you know, it just looked bad. It did look bad, right? I remember the I would dominate thing when there was the Alino Plus situation. Yes. Like that was like disgusting, you know. Myself, I was like, holy, you know, I was not aware of that. And, you know, I appreciate that I had those situations anyway, you know, because they created the way I am right now, pretty much. That's how I learned how to do things. You know, I was sad about it, and I was kind of hit that, you know, like something like this happened. But then I'm like, okay, I can, you know, I have to take something out of it, and it did help me tremendously with like the communication. I think that year I worked pretty hard in order to get better, and I think it helped my team because I was cluttering the comms at the time. There was like a lot of memes around that too. But when it comes to mechanics, I genuinely believe it was like one of my best years anyway. If you would look at some of the games, I did think with Hans. Actually, people don't even remember I was playing with Hans Sam at the time.
Yeah,
like,
true.
We were like doing so well on bot lane. Now, you know, I don't know if we were the best, but at some point we were like winning against everyone pretty much, and the matchups were just favorite. Even, you know, when I thought about it like recently, I was like the meta that was there. I didn't play enchanters almost ever. Yeah. You know, I was playing so much engaged, and nowadays people view me as a player who can probably only play enchanter, which is to me a bit mind blowing. Because that year I did play well on those champs. I think we are doing really great job as a team, and I think individually I was getting better and better with every week with the players that I had. Because I was a bit quiet at first. I mean, nothing comes, right? But I was quiet overall when it came to like my point of view. But I realized I have a bit similar point of view to Inspired, and I also started picking up things from others, right? From their point of views. That's why I learned so much from everyone, like, right? Although with his experience about like how to play around top lane stuff, same for Larssen pretty much, but you know, how to play with mid. Then Inspired, because he was like, him and Hans were like the main shot callers at the time, so I learned a lot from both of them. First from Inspired, how to work around map, and then Hans, how to just play bot lane and how to make use of your like advantage to your team, right? And I picked up all of those things, and I think it helped me so much. And when I started playing a bit better mechanically, I'm not sure if I was consistent that much, right, because of all the talks on the scene, but when I think about it now, like even the first finals I played, I think that were the best finals I ever played, I think, mechanically. Like, just because of how I think I was just like, you know, I just had the feeling we would win. We didn't, right? But it was really close. And I was really happy afterwards with the finals because I did believe that I did what I could in order to win those.
On the Hans Sama topic, you actually mentioned something I did want to ask you about, which is, it's funny because as a person, he seems like a very quiet, sort of shy person. That is a weird thing which took years, dude. And I swear it wasn't until he got to G2 people actually heard outside the scene that he's a really vocal player, because everyone assumed he was just silent or something. Whereas, like, as you say, I've actually heard from some of his coaches, he's like the dream ADC. He does exactly what you want. Like, if he has the lead, he talks about the whole map, tells everyone where to come, like where to group and stuff. Can you give me some thoughts on playing with this player?
Yeah, first of all, like the laning phase, he just wants to make 100% use of what resources he has. And he'll make sure that if you have a good, I don't know, jungle matchup or like 3v3, he'll just make use of it, right? That's what he's known for nowadays. And, you know, it's not anyone, when he plays Draven or he plays Kalista, it's not like jungler or I mean it can be jungler or support, but most of the time it's him who calls everything off and makes the whole plan around it. I think it's because also how many years he actually like spent on the playstyle that he kind of created. But you know, even nowadays there's like a Hansama dive when like like quote where the guy just like dives you on second wave 2v2, and it's always been Hansama who would do that, right? And even at Worlds we did that and people were just shocked, right? And yeah, he was I think he's extremely smart about the game, and he just knows how to contribute to the team the best way possible with the resources he has, and he just makes sure his team is on the same page, and that's why it makes him such a good even leader, you know, when it comes to at least early game. And yeah, overall his map awareness is pretty crazy.
So you referenced there, in the first split you ever played at LEC, you were actually in the final, and this was the one, if people forget, against Mad Lions, where it was the 3-2 gate series, and the joke is even one of these games, I even had like fucking Armor on a show right after, and he just sort of laughed like, yeah, maybe we should have lost. Like they even know it was kind of like a crazy series. So two things. One, what's it like to be in the finals the first time in LEC? Like, mate, think of people like your teammates, like Odo Amner and stuff. They've been waiting years to go to finals. And then also, like, do you agree, could this have been a rogue win? Was it a throw or a we robbed? What do you think?
I mean, we did lose, but I really thought in the moment that we would just like stomp them at some point. We are doing so well. I think our drafts were also really good, and we were playing to our strengths. I do believe that third game should have gone to us just because of how well we played, but at some point we kind of dropped the ball and it snowballed. I think the fifth game we came back, but we also dropped the ball at some point and they just took it. I think Mad Lions were really good when you just, you know, decided to kind of throw the lead, and they would just punish you right away. That's why they were so good at it. That's, I think, yeah, the good example is the game 4 where we kind of lost in the early game, which didn't happen to us that many times at that time, and they just, you know, they took off from there and they completely stomped us in game 4. So yeah, at the end of the day, they deserve it, right? Because they did like take, they just played better. But I do believe first 3 games or even the 5th game, we were doing so much good stuff that at the end of the day, it's sad we didn't win. But yeah, maybe it had to be this way.
What about to be in the final, though? Like, I'll ask it a different way, because, like I said, your mate Odo Amner, it took forever to get the finals and to win eventually, etc. But, like, this split, like, not only is it your first LEC split, you even got to beat fucking G2 on the way there. Like, this must be, like, what I want to kind of ask is, like, does this set the expectations crazy high? Like, I should be in the finals every split, or I should win titles and stuff. Like, what were you thinking at this time?
I overall, in my first split, looking at what teammates I had, I wanted to do the best way possible, and I did think that finals are, you know, doable, and, you know, like, this was my expectation, pretty much. It was high expectation as a rookie, but to be fair, I couldn't really think of anything less. That's why I was not so shocked playing those finals. I think I was very confident coming into there, because I just knew that we're good players. We just had to showcase that, and that's something that I was, like, putting so much mind into it as well. At the time, we had a really good performance coach as well, and he helped me out really. He helped me out so much, actually, at that time. Nowadays he actually works for G2 as well, but he showcased me how much I can do before the game in order to improve on stuff, and I think that's what helped me be so chill and calm before the finals, that nowadays, you know, I don't see it as there was like so much pressure, right? I would put more pressure on myself and at the same time deal with it in order to succeed. And yeah, I think there was more, I would like stress a lot more in like other finals than that one. I think that one was like one that I was actually like full confident about everything.
You said earlier that, like, you've obviously been criticised for clattering the comps, like talking too much and kind of like jamming everyone else, right? One of the things about this that's interesting is, obviously, in theory, your role is meant to talk a lot. It's just, it seems like if anyone watches a comms video, you get really caught up in sort of like the hype of a moment, right? Like, has that been a battle for you? Because like I'm trying to imply here is, like, normally the problem is getting people to talk. A lot of people are just silent on the mic, or they're making sick moves, but they're not telling their teammates. Like, what's the challenge been in this sense? Because I'm sure on some level they want you to talk a lot, right?
Yeah, the thing is, right, I have to find the balance between everything, and I I'm quite of a emotional guy. I like to get hyped up, and I try to like hype up my teammates. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and that's where I have to find what's the best for my team. I think like a good example was the finals like, in Mamo, where like I was like some of the things I did right. They were not the best for the team, but it did help at the end. I believe because people just like get the energy from me, right? And I try to like share as much energy as possible. I think in my first year, I think I just wasn't so aware about things, and I was just sometimes right with the Ali no flash and everything else. I was just like saying things that would just like distract others, right? That's why I tried to figure out how to try to be me, but at the same time try to be as have as much how to say it. Maybe just clarify things better and just try to be more helpful to the team, but at the same time just try also to like try to hype them up pretty much.
Like, this was obviously the year of the dreaded Rogue time narrative, where between 20 and 30 minutes, who knows what happens.
Yeah.
Apparently everyone in Rogue loses their mind, throws the gold lead, and then just goes like, go to the wrong objective, and then loses the game, right? But can you give us some thoughts? Because even though it became like a meme, I like a lot of like jokes and things in life, there's a grain of truth to it. Like, there clearly was some sort of weird pattern, right? Give me some thoughts.
I think we had really good early game plans, and we would like snowball really well off of it. But right, as you said, when the 20 minutes mark came in, we would somehow just like throw it away. And at the same time, we tried to like look at it, and sometimes it was like so silly mistakes, but we would like constantly do them. It was, you could say it was me, but I felt like it was everyone at some point where we would just like somewhat, we would like just lose the focus for a second, and we would just do that. It was so strange, and I think it was because in early game, I think we're talking so much about things, but then later we would not be as active in comms as possible, because we also had we had teammates that pretty much wanted to farm up a lot of times, and I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, I think it was like a great thing when we were like so ahead of an enemy team that we could get even more ahead. But I think sometimes we would not be on the same page, and we would just like randomly lose our focus, and we would just die, and that would pretty much cause the lead that we got to just go away, and then we would have to fight from the even footing, which was really annoying because it even became a meme. But I think it helped. It was good that the meme was like this, because I think it helped us later to get better at it.
Was it just something that happened in officials? Was it something that happened in scrims at all? Was it like pressure related, do you think?
I think so. I think in scrims we were really good. I think in scrims we were like dominating most of the games. Maybe against G2 it was always like back and forth, like versus them always it was like that as Rogue. But I think versus other teams we were doing really well. So I would say it was like an official thing that sometimes even anyone, I think anyone would like just lose the focus, and we would not be playing as a team for like 1-2 minutes, and because of it we would like lose the leads, and that at some point it got annoying for sure, because everyone did it, and we just wanted to really work on it. So I think we put a high priority in order to like fix that, and try to remove it.
You said earlier that actually Inspired is one of the players you've learned things from, like how to see the map, etc. Right? This is a player where, thankfully, because of his time in EG, I feel like actually he's been able to turn the narrative around and people understand he's an excellent player. But at the time when he went to America, like people actually, because the team was good without him, people were sort of like he was the problem, or making like he's not a good jungler, even though, if people forget, he used to be the LEC MVP as well as when he went to America was the LCS MVP. So as far as I can tell, Trymbi, it's just more like people fitting together. Like, as far as I can tell with him, if you saw when he had, like, mid laner played for him, he had like the Niski style player playing for him, whereas like Larssen obviously in theory wants a jungler to play for him. Like, we can see that these are both good players, but give me some thoughts and give me the upside then, because people are going to know the negatives. What are the upsides of Inspired? What is he good at? What makes him good as a jungler? He clearly is very good, right?
Yeah, I think for me it helped a lot that I had a similar thinking when it came to map. I think a lot of times when I came in, I could see that I was looking at things similar way as him, but he was always like one step ahead when it came to that too. I felt like he just knew what's gonna happen in every single situation, and during that time, a lot of things was like pretty much masterminds of his. Like the way we would get leads, it was just him completely reading out either enemy jungler or enemy player, because he also knew how other roles work, not only his.
Right.
And that's what helped him so much in order to become so good. I think, you know, like mechanically for sure, like top of the best players, like, you know, and you just mind he could read anyone at some point. And yeah, that's why it helped us so much to get the leads, because everyone, like every single player did really good, and Inspired would like pretty much try to capitalize on it, because his lanes were winning, so he could just do whatever he wanted. And because of the fact he was this good, sometimes he would just make enemy junglers' life a nightmare.
What do you think on that aspect that I set up there, where I tried to contrast that? I actually think separately they're both excellent players, Larssen and Inspired, but it did seem like there was almost like, I don't even think they were bad together. They just didn't really seem to have like a synergy in how they wanted to play the game. Maybe can you give me some thoughts?
Oh yeah, I would say they fought a bit differently, even though I still believe they're like kind of similar, right? They both like to farm quite a bit. I think they both knew where is the good timing in order to do stuff. But yeah, I think Inspired sometimes, you know, he would like to be a bit more active when it came to things. And Larssen, I think at the time the meta was not so good for that. I think like the meta, I think the whole year was like more like Orianna Azir meta, which, you know, people say that it's boring, but Larssen was just the best at it, I think, at some point, right?
Sure.
Where he would just like win every single lane. And I think they just tried to play like to their strengths, right? And they would not fit as well, at least in the early stages of the game. That's why maybe, you know, it could feel this way, because it just, you know, you can't make everything work, kind of, and that was one of the things that made sometimes things look so strange.
The other side, obviously, and this the other way I want to ask about it is, what is it actually like for you, because you played with him for many years, to play with a mid laner like Larssen? Because obviously he famously is mainly the mage player. He is the guy who tries to CS in lane, but you are the roaming support. Like everyone knows you play the Ricard and stuff. So like, how do you play with a player like that? What's the way to make him work the best? Because I often think, I know you watch LCK, I often think when you watch the LCK, the real mystery around Chovy is not like, was he good? He's fucking insane. You can see him like perfectly CS for him. But the question is, how do you work around a player like that? He's clearly not just an average mid laner. So what do you do with a player like Larssen? How did you try to work with him, or how do you play around someone like that?
I mean, I would say that even though his playstyle might look like this, he's really active when it comes to comms. He does talk a lot, you know, when there are specific angles. And I do believe at some point he was the one like trying to force me to come a little bit more mid, right? Because at first I had Hansama, who I would play a lot with, so I wouldn't. Right, because of the fact.
If people don't know, Hansama is super lane focused, is what you're implying, right? Yeah.
He was like everyone was pretty much.
Sure.
So you know, I also had like a bit of a rough time deciding.
Oh, because they're asking between the two of them, right? I see.
Exactly.
Okay. Nice.
But Larssen, I think at some point it was really nice, because I think we got a bit of the same understanding of what we want to do, and I tried to like help him out whenever I could see something. And if I didn't, I would say he would call me or the jungler out, you know. I think at first maybe it was not so easy, because also we couldn't really use as much resources as possible, because we were playing so much bot that sometimes Inspire had to just farm. But throughout the years, I think me and Larssen, we had quite a bit of conflicts when it came to that, because we tried to figure it out what's the best for every single person. But I think at some point we were doing really well with it, and I think we were winning games just because we are both clear about what we want to do.
Right, when it came to that year's Worlds, people forget this, that even though Rogue sadly didn't get out of the group stage, dude, the fact you even came that close is bonkers. Like, if people forget, this was the craziest, if you're a Western team, group of death ever, because the joke is the two #1 favourites to the tournament was Damwon from Korea, and even though FPX hadn't won the LPL, they were actually the other favourite. Everyone was super scared of these two teams, the best LPL and LCK teams, and then the other team was Cloud9 with Perkz, who obviously had their own, like, upset factor. Right, in the end, essentially, was just a BO1 against Cloud9 that stopped you getting out of the group. But the fact it was even possible, you got to give me some thoughts on this, because if people forget, the previous year before you came, obviously everyone memed on Rogue and were like, oh, they're fucking shit. They had kind of like the Mad Lions reputation now of like, they go international and let everyone down. So nobody thought Rogue had any chance in this group. And then the idea that like you're going to beat FPX a few times is like, that. And everyone would tell me I'm an idiot if I said that before. I think they had like Doinby, who's like the MVP and shit. Like, give me some thoughts on this group. It sounds wild, mate. Like, going into it, did you really think like we're fucked?
At first, yeah. Like I remember the Inspire reaction when we got the group. He was like, it was just over, you know, from the get-go. It felt so bad. But I think at some point we just like decided to play our game, and I think we had a lot of like good picks that were working for us. And that meta was also really crazy. I don't think there was like ever meta like this. The junglers were really good for Inspired. I think Odo had really some of the picks that he could just pull off, and enemies had to ban it off. I think even for mid there was like so many good things. The bot lane meta got a bit crazy because that was, I think, first year when the Nami Lucian came out of nowhere.
Yes.
And that's where I kind of also started to like think a bit more about like enchanter, like enchanter style, because that was the first time I would like actually get fucked in lane, you know, by the enchanters from the opponent, from the enemy team. We played so much against like T1 as well, and I think it was EDG. I think it was EDG at the time. Yeah. It was so hard to play against them, right? I had my games when I was like doing well, but when the meta came in, I was like pretty clueless on the world's level, I would say. And even though I was the rookie, you know, I still had like high expectations for me, so that was like one thing that I had to deal with. And of course, there were some games that they didn't really go our way, but I think there was like one Damwon game that we were so close to win it. I think it was like crazy. It was a crazy game with like, I think,
it was like almost 40-minute game or something, right? I think I know what you're on about.
Yeah, I think it was a game where like we were so doomed from the early game, but we just tried to work it out. And Hansama had really crazy good calls, and then like our comp would like go online, and enemy couldn't actually end the game. And I think it was like one mistake that made us lose. But yeah, this group, it felt so winnable, even though it looked doomed. I don't know, like I don't want to like set up so much expectations like when I see the opponents, because at Worlds, especially when this is like also best of one, you can win anything possibly, and that was the first time I could clearly see that things can go like this. And the last day, because I don't think it looked that good for us at first, because we won, I think, only one game. I think
you had to like win at the very end, like to win out of the group. Right?
Yes, I think it was the last. Actually, I mean, maybe it was not as bad, but yeah, the last day was really crazy, because I think we were like won some games off, I think from FPX. Or maybe we won like the C9 games
on the last game, yeah.
And then there was like last day where like we could have already qualified to quarterfinals, but we lost first game to C9, and then the madness happened, I think. Because it was like first game that we could have actually qualified, and then we had to play against everyone else. And that was crazy when we won 2 games against FPX. Oh, that was like even fun, because I remember first game we were like Inspire was trying to chat with FPX and nobody wrote anything, right? And then we won, and then he started typing again, and then they all started typing. And we're like, okay, guys, now they treat us as like, you know, we're actually the opponents now. It was so funny to see, but yeah, it felt really good to win against FPX. Sadly, the day ended the way it did, right? Because versus C9 we didn't play as well, but I think we showed a lot of good stuff, and I would say we should have been quite happy about it.
Right. As you mentioned, this was where Lucian-Nami popped up. It's just everyone only remembers it the next year, because obviously, like, the joke is it actually defined the LEC Summer playoffs. If you remember with FNATIC and Upset, it was like that was their band-aid, basically, wasn't it? So this is obviously a champion pairing, Trymbi, that actually tortured a lot of European teams. Like, as I alluded to, part of the reason FNATIC got out to Worlds the next year was basically that, like, they were the few teams that could play this. So obviously, you did have a different ADC the next year. You had comp, but what was it like? Because I know you guys definitely tried it a lot, and there was times that it was successful for you, like in the spring, etc. So what do you think of this combo? Like, what made this champion combo so powerful, and what was tricky about it?
Yeah, I think the toxic part of it was that, you know, from like level 2 onwards, it could just one-shot you from 100 to 0, or made the lane impossible if you were like pushing too fast and stuff. It was hard to punish, because they could like easily just short trade and you couldn't do much about it. And at the same time, they had so much damage, and they actually scaled not that bad if you would go proper runes, that it felt pretty much like impossible to deal with at some point, unless you were really good in lane. And that's something that was not seen as much. I think at Worlds you could see that you could somewhat punish with the champions like Yumi. That was also pretty disgusting at the time. But if you couldn't really play enchanters that well too as a support, and your AD carry was like not helping you out too much, then Lucian-Nami would just like take over every single game, and that it was like happening for so long, and even though it got nerfed and it would not be played for a while, then randomly it would be played again, and then as well, like people would play it again and they would be shocked like how much damage it deals. So it was really annoying, but I think I was like also one of the people that were abusing it with comp quite a lot. So yeah, that year was like pretty defining when it comes to that bot lane.
You referenced it earlier, but I feel like people have characterized your career and your champion identity wrong, mate. Because what's funny is they tried to make you the opposite of Hylissang. So, you know, with Hylissang, if you had a bad split like that Summer one in 2022, everyone goes, that's just because it was the enchanter meta. You know, like he's an engaged player. But as you said, you got the rep because of this year. The 2022 was like, oh, he just plays the enchanters. It's just like, that's like his specialty. But then they all even said like, oh, but when engaged shops. But that's so weird because as you said, first of all, you came up on fucking Thresh. Rakan is actually like easily your like fucking signature champ of all time, and you were playing like think about later on like Rel, fucking Leona, like you play both styles, right? Do you think it's overblown the idea you're an enchanter player?
I do think so. I think it's just because of how our playstyle was as a rogue and how we drafted, right? Like Freddy did like to draft for lanes, right?
Right.
Enchanters were the easiest way to like punish an enemy butt picks, right? And that I was like willing to do that, right? As a player, even though I was never a player who'd like constantly do it. But at some point in Rogue, I was doing it constantly because that's what won us the games pretty much in so many scenarios. That's why I think people picked it up, and yeah, right, like I'm a bit sad about that because I remember games where like did so well, right, with Engage, and I would still be called, you know, the guy that cannot really play them. And that's what also happened this year where like I had to, you know, the meta kind of changed, so I had to switch up, and I do believe I did the work well, right? Even though I haven't played those champs in a while because of the 2022 and the meta how it was. But yeah, honestly, I don't really mind, right? If that's what makes me, you know, like win one time LEC, like I'm happy about it, right? That I got to change a little bit my playstyle and then get good at it, and then, you know, I do believe I'm confident enough in order to like do that again. And if meta makes me do so, I will change my playstyle again and try to play Engage. And right, I think it even happened, right? This the previous year, and we almost won LEC. So yeah, like I'll work my way up, right, again, and I will just try to do the best. But yeah, I'm happy that people saw that, you know, I'm a good enchanter player, because that's where I also thrive, where I play lane well, and I think enchanters or like overall the range champs could help. They helped me out quite a lot in it, and I'm happy that it was showcased in a lot of games.
As you yourself alluded to earlier, people do forget that Hans Sama was ever in Rogue and you played with him. Like, they act like he was in Team Liquid and G2, and that was it. So, obviously, this was the year you got Comp as your ADC. Give me some thoughts on this player, because here's what's funny. When Comp was first introduced to me, people might remember way back in the day, we was playing with, like, Labrov and all those people, right? I was told he was actually a bit more of a passive ADC. Like, he's not the guy who's going super ham. So, what was it like compared to Hans Sama? And then who is Comp as an ADC?
I mean, maybe he was like this during his rookie year, but when he came to us, I felt he's really aggressive. I felt he's like comparable to Hans for sure. And at some point, he even got really good at some point he got really good at shot calling too, because our team kind of lacked it, you know, like when Hans and Inspired, were changed. It was the dynamic changed completely, right? I had to pick up some stuff. Larssen had to pick up things. Odo had to pick up things, and then we had malrang, who tried to call, but obviously he was not as fluent at the time, so we had to like somehow work our things out, and I think everyone stepped up. And Comp is one of the players that I think it helped him out so much now that he can easily be like not like a main shot caller, but he calls so much that it's like enough, you know, to make your team win games. And that's what he did in Rogue, and I really appreciate what he did, because it's not an easy task to do as an AD carry. And even though he did that, he still played so well. I think that year, even though right we lost Hans Sama, that we arguably were one of the best bot lanes, I think we worked our way up together, and I think at some point we were like doing really good to be also considered that year too.
I wanted to actually ask a bit about malrang, because obviously he came in to replace Inspired, and you couldn't get a more different jungler, because the joke is, whereas Inspired is more like, right, I'm going to get farmed up and strong, and then I'm going to come now and gank. malrang is the guy who just sacks the fucking camps all the time and all the items and just comes and ganks anyway, even if he doesn't have a bloody item. And he has that weird thing where, as you said, I actually saw in some old interviews, he said he wasn't super fluent. So what I've always wondered about is, I get the feeling you must have a similar experience in the game with him that we're getting as viewers, because when I watch as a viewer, I'm like, holy shit, he's going for some crazy path in here. Like, there's no, I can just tell there's no way he planned this. Like, he's decided it in the moment or coming out of base or something. As a teammate, how do you know what he's doing? Is it a mystery to you sometimes?
No, it is. It is sometimes when he builds stuff or he does stuff, like he just sees it, and right at first he wouldn't call it so much because he just couldn't, right? He would just do it, and we were all shocked when that happened. But when it worked, it most of the time actually worked, and we were like, holy shit, that guy.
It seemed to add something to the team, right? It's sort of the activity level he brought added something to Rogue, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the bad thing was that, right, that I mean, Odo was not really using him that much, right, when it came to like pressure, but both mid and bot lane were like asking for him a lot, so he had to sacrifice at the end of the day. So that's where it also came from us that his playstyle became so hectic at some point, right? But it helped us, right, as a team, and the way we drafted and the playstyle we had in early. And I think he just like kind of fill in the shoes, because before, like, unironically, before even the season started, right, that season we played some scrims, and he was really insane Grace player and farming. Okay. Yeah, he was really good at that role. I did believe that we're gonna just play Nidalee and Grace every single game at some point, but then, right, we completely took off from different level just because it didn't fit us so well at the time. And then we kind of decided that, right, we would just go this way. I think malrang also decided that for this team, like the way he did later with like Jarvan, Trando, and other champs, and how the meta went, he just thought it's way better than trying to like farm up and try to help later. He just did what he could in order to help us. And if that had to be the case where he was like so behind, but he would like help us out and we would win the game out of it, he did what we could to achieve that.
When in this spring split of Season 12, 2022, you guys made it to the finals. To make it there, obviously, you had this epic series where FNATIC was up 2-0. At the time, everyone thought FNATIC was going to win this split. If everyone forgets it, it wasn't G2. Like, they did the low bracket run, obviously. And when they're 2-0 up, like, at that moment, if I paused it, everyone's going to tell me, like, right, well, that's because, you know, FNATIC's the best team, like, Humanoid's the best player, Rogue choke, that would be the famous narrative, you know, they're just going to choke and fail, and they're going to come... By the way, everyone would predict you're going to come third now. You're going to lose the upper bracket match, low bracket, and it's going to be third, it's going to be like same old Rogue, you know. Like, what do you think happened in this series? Was it meaningful for you that you guys did the reverse sweep and the way you came back?
I think like some people just got pissed with the way like we drafted kind of too, and the way our playstyle was. I think we were just like, okay guys, like we cannot do this, right? Like they're winning, right? Because we're giving them what they want. We just have to take what we want pretty much, right? But because I think those games were like, we were somewhat winning, but then their champs were like good for what they want to do, and they were losing. So we just had to play our game, and that's what kind of started. I think it was the famous series when Larssen just picked 3 times Sylas. That, you know, kind of, he stomped the games. I think I was also really more active with other champions. I think I stopped picking enchanters, and yeah, that's what we did. I think we just had to play our game, because I think we were playing too much of their game, and it just didn't work for us at all, because we're not ahead enough at some point to like win the games. And when we played the game, I think we just became better team, even though, right, they were the favorites. Like, I think in all of those 3 games we played so well macro, and mechanically every single fight that we took, it was just won by us.
When you went to the final, and obviously people will know in this one, G2 did do an awesome, like both FNATIC and you guys, they just swept you. Everyone remembers Caps had those awesome Ari games, which actually wasn't a pick he was using before. He kind of played a bit different himself. He seemed like he played way more active. So what did you think of this final? Like, the problem is on paper it looks really bad, because everyone was so hyped after that FNATIC win. Like, this is when Rogue's supposed to win, and then you get 3-0'd. So give me some thoughts on this final. Yeah,
I think on the day, I mean, yeah, it's bad to give such reasons, but we just didn't play like we always did. Like, it was really weird the way we did things, because we didn't really play with each other as well as we did versus FNATIC in the later games, and G2 just punished us really hard. Also in drafts, right, the Ari that you talked about, we we also didn't have like the team comps that could actually punish the picks. And yeah, I think they were getting like only blue sides. And even though we had counter picks, they just had better champs that they could work around. And yeah, they did stomp us. Like it was 3-0 that, right? I would like to say that we were like fighting back, but I don't think we were. So it was really, yeah, it was an underperformance, and it didn't feel good at the time. So I think that's why it gave us so much hunger to actually work for the summer after this finals, because it just felt terrible afterwards that we lost like this.
Right, understandably, people hate the label choker, or to be told they ever choked a game. They always want to make it like, no, you know, I just did a bad game, or the opponent did a great game. If you have a scenario like this, Trymbi, where the first final the year before, you're in like a winning position and you lose, and then this one, you're sort of favoured for the final, but you get swept. Do you ever wonder, like are we choking? Like, am I a choker? Like, am I just not going to win? Like, I've been in this position a couple of times. Do these thoughts ever come to your mind?
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the fans as well around, just like constantly like talking about it, right? It just gets to you. Like, you're just thinking, yeah, maybe you're just this bad. Like, maybe you're just a choker and you can't really finish it off. I did, right? At the end of the day, like I was hoping, you know, it's not the case. I was believing that it's not the case, but there was so many doubts, right? At the same time, and like thoughts that, maybe you're just not made for it. Maybe, winning is not your thing. But I think that split, right? I think we started pretty bad, but I think they just wanted all to win, right? We were just so fed up with those narratives, and we wanted to show the world that, you know, even after changes, after everything, it was not, you know, it was not like a player's problem, it was not a team problem. Like, we're gonna make it at some point, and I think that split even didn't look that bad, but yeah, like things changed, right?
I mean, the funny thing is, the following split that you guys did end up winning had none of the original setup of a rogue split. Like, remember, a rogue split's supposed to be like first place games won, you're supposed to go through the upper bracket, and then you're supposed to like fail at the end. Was like the opposite of this one, wasn't it? Like, the joke was, in the regular split, no one thought the team was the best, so you weren't going to win. And then in the low bracket, everyone forgets this one bit. Forget G2. Everyone said FNATIC was going to beat rogue. In fact, the joke was after game one, I think even FNATIC thought they were going to. Like, everyone wrote rogue off this split, but this was the one that you won. So what do you think happened in this split? That, I mean, it does seem like in the lower bracket something specifically came together, right? The team changed how they were playing or something?
For sure, the whole regular split was quite hard for us. I think we started off pretty bad, and overall then I would say that we are still living the time from the spring, right? When we got to the finals, we were doing actually well, and then we just had to wake up, right, and figure it out how to do it now. And yeah, I think we were, I don't know, fourth, I think, that regular split, and then the playoffs, it was not going as well for us at first, but right, we got through the lower bracket. I think we lost to G2, I think, again 0-3 before that finals, I think a week before. So yeah. But I think a really good thing is that it was like first LAN final, right? For me, for Larssen.
Yes.
It was
in front of the stadium and the crowd and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. Like the fact that we traveled, right? We changed a little bit, right? We lost to G2, it felt bad, right? The week before, but then we traveled, right? We saw I personally saw the arena. I was like, holy shit, like it's the first time, right? And we're gonna actually, let's try to make it work. And I think everyone was so hyped for that. I think there was a moment when we all went to like practice up 30 minutes. I think it was the day before, or maybe 2 hours before the game itself. We just like all sat down and we were like quite quiet. We were just like warming up. And then I think me and Odo just say, guys, it feels so chill. Like we're just gonna do this. Like it felt so good. And everyone kind of agreed with that. We felt like we were at home, which was crazy to everyone, because it was, I think, everyone outside of Odo were pretty much first time in the stage, right? So yeah, I don't know how it happened. Like it just clicked, you know. Even the scrims that we did, right? Like during that time at Mamo, we were just playing better, right? We were trying to work things out, and we couldn't really fix every of our issue, but we tried to play to our strengths, and I think it showcased during the finals.
That was something I wanted to ask you about, actually, because in the past years of Rogue, another thing that I think the team was probably justifiably criticised for is not just doing awesome in the regular split and then failing in the playoffs, but it always felt like the read on the meta was good in the regular split. And I've heard, by the way, that Rogue is everyone's favourite team to practice against, like you practice properly and you do the like thing. But in the playoffs, it wouldn't just be that you'd like lose and choke. It's also that other teams would have some sort of draft adaptation. Like if you think about in fact, the year before even you were there, even though the Jokids eventually Larssen loved Lucian mid. It was actually Nemesis using that against him on FNATIC that like beat them out of a series. Then later, there was this whole thing like you're saying with the spring split. It looked like their read was completely different when G2 got there. This time around, you guys were the ones who just like stuck to your own style. Because if people forget this final, this was the one that like, I would say now people do say one of your strengths is your champion pool. Because this final showed it, dude. Like if people don't know, in this final, you played Soraka first game with Kalista. Then in the second game, you played Tom Kench. In fucking 2022, you played Tom Kench, isn't even a champion in the meta anymore, with Caitlyn. And then the last game, you guys played Sivir and Lulu. So like, having a champion pool for as a supporter, that allows the ADC to go all over the place for the matchups. Like, give me some thoughts, because it feels like this was really like a time for you to shine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first draft, I'll be honest, like I was a bit shocked how it went because I think Freddy sold me out a little bit there, like not to be mean, but yeah, I didn't know at first what to pick, right? Because
that wasn't like planned. I thought it was planned to come in with this, right? Okay,
completely not. That's Soraka pick. I mean, did we play even in scrims? I think I played it like once maybe or twice, like 2 or 3 weeks before that. Because right, there was a lot of enchanter in the meta, and I was like, okay, guys, I can pull some other things than Lulu. Like Lulu, you know, Lulu was not the perfect champion, but it was one of the easier ones to play for everyone else, right? So I wanted to counter it, and one of those gems was Soraka. And yeah, I was like, okay, they picked like Renata. I'm like, nobody ever played it. I don't think we ever played Kalista, Soraka together. I was like, guys, I think it's good. Like our draft, maybe it's not like ideal into enemy, but I'll just play this champ because I think I can make it work. And yeah, we did make it work. I was quite honestly shocked, right? Because as well, everyone was so scared, for instance, of like Flacket's Draven, right? And everything. People were constantly banning it. They were like banning caps out too. But we just came to this draft and we're like, okay, we're just going to give it. We're just going to play to our strengths because it just doesn't fit the draft we want to do, right? And yeah, it worked perfectly fine. And the first game, right, I think the momentum that we gained from like that one team fight, right, when I was like just shouting afterwards, right? I think after that, I just felt like the game is, I think the series was over after that. And then when we got Penta, like I think the momentum and at least my energy that I felt, I just felt like we're gonna win, you know, and I tried everything to do. And as you said, second game we also go red. I go Tamkent. I don't think I didn't practice it at all lately, but it was really good champion at the time in that specific draft. Maybe I don't know if it was ideal, but for me it felt perfect, right? And enemy bot lane was not pressuring us as hard as you know, they should maybe, but we were just doing our thing. I think, you know, we played so well together as well, and we played to the strengths, and macro was really good from us that no matter what I picked, if I picked something that I believed in, I think, you know, it would have worked.
I've had to make a lot of tough choices in my career, but thanks to the support of my Patreon community, the Skrilluminati, I never have to make tough financial decisions. So this video and all the rest on my channel are kindly supported by Ahmed Haju, Frisky, Mac Pugnaccio Racula, Animosity, Jensen Go, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Toucan, and you know it if you've ever heard before, and you'll hear it many times in the future. A special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerry Keys Minion. Do you want to ask a question in my video AMA? Do you want to be part of one of those long discussions where we talk about whatever you like in esports? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are going to be? Or maybe you want to suggest a topic for a future Thorin's Thoughts type video? Well, if any of these perks or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is today and join the Skrilluminati by joining the Patreon link in the description box below.